Joining our panel on Toronto versus McGill. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm really excited to be moderating this panel today. I'm a second-year undergraduate studying at the London School of Economics. For those of you who are tuning in to Millie for the first time, Millie is a company that's dedicated to building a global community of international students, and that's why we host panels and webinars like these every weekend. So if you're interested in our future events, you can follow us on Instagram at Millie_group for updates. Very quickly, here's how today's panel is going to look. We have some questions prepared and the panelists will answer them. And then after that, we'll field questions from the audience if we have time. And yeah, today we have three amazing panelists, and I personally can't wait to hear from them about their experiences. So let's just jump right into it. To start off, could each panelist please just introduce yourself, tell us your name, the city you're in and are from, what you're studying, and one fun fact about yourself. Maggie, let's start with you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maggie. I'm currently at the University of Toronto studying international relations and public policy. So I'm currently in Toronto, but I'm originally from Hong Kong. And the fun fact about myself is that I really like film.
Uh, okay, so my name is Kantapong. I'm currently in Toronto as well. I'm go to the University of Toronto. I'm from Chiang Mai, Thailand. So it's a beautiful city in the northern part of Thailand. Um, I'm currently studying and about to finish my undergraduate degree studying health and disease with a minor in statistics. I guess one fun fact about me is that I love cafe hopping with my friends.
Hi everybody, my name is Waleed. I'm currently in Washington DC, and I'm also originally from Washington DC. I'm studying international development studies and minoring in psychology at McGill University. I just finished my second year there. And my fun fact about myself is that I really like fish and I have a pet rainbow shark.
Great, guys. Thanks for all your fun facts. They actually do sound quite fun. Um, okay, so we'll get into the good stuff that we're all here for. What motivated you to choose Toronto or McGill over other universities that you maybe applied to and that you got into? Maggie?
A lot of it has to do with reputation, not even gonna lie. I've heard really good things about U of T, and because of like the broad base of programs it offers, it kind of gave me the space to figure things out. And I also like how it's in the middle of a city.
Yeah, for me is very similar to Maggie as well because U of T is world renowned, and of course, like when you get to surround yourself with, oh, like pretty much a top university, you expect it to be like all, um, great opportunities lined up. And but for me personally, why I choose U of T is I did get a little bit of a scholarship when other university didn't really offer me. So it's just U of T. So that kind of just incentivized me to just be here because it's a safer option.
For me, McGill, like the main reason it stood out to me was one, because of like the academic reputation, which is what you guys both mentioned. Also, just like the international environment. I really wanted to be at a school like where I could like, I don't know, have academic challenge, but also like have a lot of like multicultural like perspectives and like diverse perspectives. Like living most of my life in the US, I wanted to like experience most of like other countries and other places in the world. And also I just really liked the city of Montreal because it was super like an amazing city with really unique culture. And it's like kind of, I don't know, it felt different than anywhere else like I've been to and anywhere else in Canada. In my opinion, I won't say anything bad about Toronto.
Great, thanks, guys. So based on what I'm hearing, both McGill and Toronto seem to have like pretty good academic reputations for internationals to like want to go there. Before we go into like the specifics and the details. Maybe you guys can describe your overall experience at your schools. I know you guys are not graduating yet, or maybe next year. But so far, based on what you've had and what you've seen, like what you think about it, and maybe some of the highlights, just because that's nice. Maggie.
Yeah, so this has to do with the aforementioned fun fact about myself. So I went into U of T wanting to study film, which is offered as like cinema studies. And I went in and then I kind of went through the motions of first year, explored my programs, and I realized that wasn't what I wanted to pursue academically. So my experience at U of T was that it gave me the option to kind of explore what I wanted to do and to kind of change accordingly. And I think that's really been useful for figuring out what I want to do and to like learn more about myself. So overall, it's been a very kind of reflective and like transformative experience.
For me, the kind of like a highlight at U of T is access to research opportunities. Specifically, like I'm in a science, and surrounded by so much hospitals and stuff like that, I do have a lot of access to a lot of amazing professors and research projects. And of course, I think the most fun part about me is also doing some of the lab work as well. We have, I think, one of the biggest labs as well. I'm not sure if I'm like saying the stats right, but it's just like one of the biggest in Toronto. So that's also the fun part about me being in science at U of T.
My overall experience has been pretty good. I think it took like definitely like the first like few months or year to just like adjust because I went to a pretty small high school and I was going to McGill, which is about like around 25,000 undergrad. So just figuring out how to like, I guess, navigate that and access resources and just really made me realize like I had to be the one to take initiative for things and make things happen. In like a larger school, which is good for me to like change those things about myself that I need to work on. Yeah, and highlights, I guess, was just like finding people I liked and getting to explore a brand new city and kind of like just like getting to experience it over time and making it feel like familiar and home, where like when I first got there it was like a foreign place to me. Yeah.
Nice. When you said 25,000 undergrads, my jaw is literally on the floor because I cannot imagine having that many undergrads coming from my school. But yeah, great. It's great to hear that you guys have had really good experiences so far and that I guess your school is living up to kind of your academic expectations, which is good to hear. Um, so since this panel is kind of targeted towards like high school students, obviously the big thing on their minds is applications. So I don't know whether it's different how it works in Canada. So maybe you guys can walk me through it. What does the application process look like for Toronto and McGill? And like what are the key components within your application? And maybe things you did that you think helped you stand out within those key components. Maggie?
I think the application process compared to like US universities was quite simple. I remember only having to put out my transcript, maybe like letter of like a statement for more like specialized programs, but I just remember kind of putting that out there and then being admitted to a general humanities stream. So I guess if you want to go into a more specific stream, it's different, but for general admission, it's pretty simple.
My experience was also quite similar to Maggie as well. I just have to submit my transcript, write a few personal statement about like what I've done in university and what I've no, sorry, what I've done in high school and what it had taught me. And I think the things that you really, as high school student, needs to really be focusing on is the deadlines. I think it's because U of T has a lot of like different deadlines for application. For international student, maybe it's this day, and then for domestic student, it's this day. But if you want a special consideration for whatever program, it's this day. So it's being paying a lot of attention on the deadline will help you.
Yeah, I think my process is similar to what both of them said. Simpler than all the other schools I applied to, which were all American. I essentially just had to like you select your faculty and like what program you want to go into, and I just uploaded like personal information, my transcript, which is just my high school grades, and test scores. So that was basically what was assessed. It was an ACT for me, but I think it would be the same for IB or AP or any other type of test score things. And also like what Maggie was saying is that I think when like I applied to Faculty of Arts, which is the more general one, but if you're trying to go to somewhere like in the environmental school or like something more specific or similar, they might have different deadlines or more like specific things to do, like essays or something. Um, but for arts, it was like rolling admission, so you could basically apply throughout most of the year, and then you'll hear back based on when you apply.
Yeah, great. I think the point about like deadlines is really important. Because I know a lot of people who, I mean, everyone was rushing during this one time to get all their things sent by the deadline. So I know that's very real. Um, okay, what advice would you give to students preparing their applications? Um, Obviously you guys said like your grades for your transcript and like some of you had to write like maybe a personal statement. But just in general, what kind of advice would you give to students preparing their applications, and what are common mistakes that you've seen or you maybe you have made yourself that you think students should avoid? Maggie?
I would advise them to definitely take advantage of the more like specialized programs or like colleges, because at U of T we have colleges that usually kind of defines what dorm you end up staying in the first year, but it also opens you up to various like courses that you can take or like scholarships that you can be eligible for. And so some colleges like give out more scholarships than others, some are more supportive of like certain like academic pursuits than others. And so I would say like research them well and like really apply to them um, during the right time. And some of them require like more rigorous applications.
For me, I think it's going to be similar to Maggie as well. You have to, at U of T, there's this, if you're in the Faculty of Arts and Science, we do have a little bit of like special administration in terms of a college because we have so many bachelor undergraduate student for the university itself to handle. They split it into colleges, and thinking about like what colleges you go into is really important. But I can't not stress the importance of deadlines because it could take a while for the application to go through, and sometimes you can't have everything being sent and to go into the to the university at the same time. So really time your application so that nothing is marked late. So you won't be so yeah, you'll be considered for any special scholarships or opportunities afterward.
Yeah, so I guess like the advice I'd give is just to like focus on your grades is something different than I ever heard because like that is most of what you're going to be considered on. Because for me there was no personal statement or extracurricular section, which is so different for me from the other schools I applied to. So just making sure you have a strong like academic record is a good thing to focus on. Yeah, and like also just meeting specific program prerequisites if there's things that you have to do before a specific program before you apply, making sure you do this. And then also echo what someone said earlier about just like researching the faculty or program you're going into and making sure that's what you want to do. Um, for McGill specifically, we have our downtown campus, which is basically every program except for environmental science and agricultural studies. And then those two schools are at a different campus completely, which is about like an hour away. So I have had friends in like grades below me who applied to McGill and applied to that school, and then they found out they were not going to be in Montreal. They were going to be like at a different campus, and that's not what they wanted, and so they didn't end up going because of that. So just making sure you know what you're applying to and that that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I think a well-informed decision is a good piece of advice for any uni and any new city that you go to. You guys all mentioned that like obviously academics are really important for your uni, and Waleed, you mentioned like how McGill is only um basically like your grades because you didn't have to write like a personal statement and stuff. So maybe you guys could share a bit about like the grade prereqs that you had to get, and a bit about your like high school background, what you took. I don't know whether it's like AP, A level, IB, that kind of thing. And yeah, Maggie.
I wouldn't remember the specific grade requirement, but in high school I did IB and I sent in my predicted grades, and I remember they kind of would evaluate me after the final grades came out, and that would have been July of 2022. And so they kind of like actively check. I don't think the threshold is like too high. I don't think I was like, I don't think they had like are looking for people above like, I don't know, a 40 in IB and stuff like that. But I think definitely like high, like 30s range would be nice. I was not like I did not take standardized tests during then. And so I was evaluated just based on that. And yeah, I think I just, with the higher levels that I selected for IB, I think I just demonstrated my interest in pursuing the humanities, film, literature, that direction.
So my background from high school is APE. I went to a American International School back at home. So I kind of curated my AP in a way that it's more focused on science and research. So I have mine on, I think, like biology, statistics, and the research capstone. And I think that really put me like made me stand out to other people because I have that research component of AP, which is usually lacking when compared to my other friends who did IB. And yeah, I think those things are really important. And grades are your high school GPA is really important. I think if you're from an American school, is aiming at least 85 to 90 or even higher is a safe range.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I guess I don't know the exact cutoff like for GPAs. I don't think there's like a specific thing, but I think for each faculty, you can go online and they will say what they recommend your GPA to be to apply to that faculty, and it will change. Like I'm sure getting into the engineering faculty requires a higher GPA than getting into the arts. Same for like maybe sciences as well. I went to a high school in Washington, D.C., and they actually like got rid of APs and everything because I don't even know why, but we got replaced with just something called upper level classes. So I just made sure I was taking upper level classes to show that like I was able to take classes at a higher level. And then I also took the ACT, which is just a standardized test in the US, similar to the SAT, and I did pretty well on that, and I think that also helped me a lot. Yeah.
Nice. It's great to hear you guys kind of all come from like pretty diverse high school backgrounds, which is nice to see. Okay, so we'll jump into a bit more of your academics in like your respective universities. So what has your experience with your classes and professors been like so far? Maybe you could also speak a bit about your schedules and whether you have like lectures, seminars, workshops, what do they call it? Labs. Sorry, I don't do STEM, but labs, that kind of thing, if you have any. So yeah, Maggie.
So yeah, so I'm currently in a social science program. So I have like lectures and tutorials, which basically, yeah, with the TA and like the class, you kind of go over the readings or cover any supplemental material. I think tutorials kind of like phase out by the time we get to third year. But yeah, that's generally what my schedule looks like. Um, should I should I comment on my relationship with my professors as well? Okay. They're great. I think they're all aware that U of T offers like a bunch of programs, and so there's bound to be students taking their courses who aren't actually like majoring in what they do. But despite that, like they're still incredibly willing to like share their work with you, to support you, even like let you do research with them in whatever way possible. Like I made really good friends with my um this like professor who teaches business history, which I took as an elective. But it eventually got to a point where, he was helping me get my work published. He like thought about like offering me research positions. So it's definitely possible to really build a relationship with a professor, even though what you're studying is only like tangentially related. Yeah, I think most professors, at least in social science, are like that, like very willing to kind of just evaluate you as like a learner, not as like what you're just studying. And I think that's what I really like about the professors at U of T.
My experience is quite similar as well. Like the professors are really, really nice, and I think I guess like they're really nice to you if you approach them. Like it's because U of T is a huge class, first year, second year, third year. Like they can get lost in they don't make them think of you just another of your student. Make you stand out by like introducing yourself to them, and that's when you'll get to know you personally. And oh, I've also have to answer about classes and schedule. So in that note, for me, it depends on the year. Some year it can be very, very demanding because you have to fill out all your prerequisite courses for your program of interest. And some courses do have, like Maggie said, an extra section for tutorials or even labs that you have to be kind of aware of when you're signing up for those courses as well, because they can take up a lot of your availability.
Yeah, so like the way McGill work, I mean, similar, it's also a big school, so a lot, especially first and second year, it's like very large lecture halls. I mean, it depends on the class. Like I know for the Faculty of Management, it's a smaller faculty and the class sizes are smaller, but for most of them, and specifically in arts, there are pretty big lectures. So it can be hard to get that personal relationship with the professor unless you like make a lot of effort and go to office hours. But like Maggie was talking about tutorials, we have the same thing. It's just called conferences, and it usually takes the place of one class a week if we meet 3 times a week, or they just add an extra time. And it's just like a small group led by a TA, and that like gives you an opportunity to like connect better with people in your class and also create a relationship with a TA who usually is going to be the one grading your work. So you want to have a relationship with them and like understand what's expected of you. Um, my experience with class and professors has, I guess, it's been mixed. Like, I don't want to like sugarcoat anything, but I've taken great classes and also not so great one. I think it's definitely important to do research on like what classes will be like because there's a lot of stuff online about previous years and also just like how the professor is because I really think like the professor's teaching style and how they like are rated online also and just like what they're like is will make or break the class. So yeah. And I also will say like a lot of mine were started out larger, but like as I got more specialized and took higher level classes, they got smaller. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys. Um, so you've talked a bit about like your experience with classes and professors. Could you also share a bit about um maybe your experience with like friends, people you meet there, your classmates, sorry, and like if you do group projects, collaborative learning, and um if you just prefer doing independent assignments and stuff like that. So yeah, Maggie.
In terms of collaboration work among students, it's really up to you. Like some courses are definitely structured in like a more group work way. I really prefer like doing it alone just because of the like same reason earlier, like you never know if somebody's taking the course you're taking for like an elective or for like their actual program. So I think it's good to kind of, you know, work where like, you can guarantee like the quality of the work. I think I've done.
Through class. That's just like how it happened, like through class or through dorms. That's usually how you meet people. In terms of like group projects and collaborative learning, I think it really does depend on the class. Like I've taken like an economics class where it was purely based on just a midterm and a final. I've taken a sociology class which was like only group projects for the most part. So I think it definitely depends on like what you're taking. And a lot of the classes will also have those conferences talking about it, which will give you a more like collaborative feel because you can like discuss things with people and like yeah, and like collaborate on things. So yeah, I think it depends on the class if they're like how they grade things. So and most classes will have syllabuses online so you can like look at what will happen in that class and what you're expected to do.
Great, thanks, guys. I think you guys have spit pretty cool things about your individual unis. But if you, this next question is a bit more specific, I guess. What are some unique programs or courses at your university that you think are particularly beneficial for students? So not necessarily just like, oh, my school has a really cool like environmental science program, for example, but maybe mentoring, buddy programs, like just things within your uni as well as a program that you think is really cool and would be a draw for students beyond an academic course. Yeah, Maggie.
Yeah, we have a tutoring program for some courses. And so that's a really good opportunity, like for people looking to be tutored, to really work with like upper year students. Sometimes they host like labs. I know um the like economics faculty has students running like econ labs and like math as well. And that's like also a great work opportunity for students who are familiar like with the material. So I definitely recommend looking into tutoring and even like TA-ship. I know like philosophy kind of offers like undergrad TA positions, and also just general like first year streams and first year seminars. Like I cannot emphasize this enough. Like I have friends who are in like third and fourth year who still talk about like, oh, back in Trin 1 or back in Monk 1, like various like first year programs. And I don't know if this applies to our audience here, but there's also a really great academic bridging program for mature students, like students who just had to like return like to school after working for a bit or had to like start school like a little later in life. I know that's really strong and they have like really good support. And also just I think U of T has a really good data science minor program, and I know a lot of people in various programs kind of pairing it with that, and they found that it's like really helpful. So yeah.
I guess from my experience, the kind of things that in a science at least is that there's have a lot of mentor and peer support program, especially for like the first and second year prerequisite classes. A lot of I think you get tutored from a lot of upper year students who get to share their experience, and the course material are still fresh in their minds, so they could literally walk you through the whole um not the whole course, but like in certain areas that you are not understanding. And in terms of other programs that I really, really like is the internship program that some arts and science program offers. And I'm not saying that every program has it, some has it. You have to kind of look at which program that is and if you're in it or not. But if you're able to use it, it is so much very, very, very useful. I didn't do it myself, but I have friends who did it and they absolutely loved it. They were like, I get to do so many fun things with like outside of academics and like doing real work stuff.
Yeah, we also have like a tutoring like sort of type thing, like peer group sort of like program where you can get help for like most classes, like it depends on the class, but a lot of them will like just like run workshops, like especially in like fine leading up to finals and stuff to help you with that. I think also I was gonna say as well, like our arts internship office for me, because I'm in faculty of arts, is super like cool and like just interesting because they just list a bunch of different internships that are available like for from all over the world also, which is super cool. And like they help you get access to those internships. And I think we just have like a lot of like programs like that. Like there's the career planning services to help you with various things. Yeah, and it's like unique courses, maybe like I think there's like a lot of interdisciplinary courses which like pull from different subjects, which is really cool. And also I think it's just I don't know if it's unique to McGill, but I think it's really nice that if you're able to plan out your major well and like plan what classes you're going to take and like just stay on top of that, you will definitely have a lot of time to take like really interesting electives. Like I've been able to fill a lot of requirements in my first 2 years, and I've also been taking like really cool electives. Like I took the art of listening, which was about listening to music, basically. I also took like something called chemistry of food, which is super interesting. So yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of jealous that my school doesn't offer a chemistry or food course because I think I would 100% sign up for that. Um, Great, thanks guys. Since you guys talked about like Wally literally just mentioned how he like organized his classes and stuff. What has like the level of study been like? So beyond your class, like do you have a lot of readings, pre-readings to do? I know I have loads of pre-readings to do, so that takes up loads of my time. Is there like a heavy workload if you have what do they call it, like problem sets to do for STEM? Um, and maybe you can share any interesting debates like within your courses that you think were quite cool. Yeah, Maggie.
Um, Definitely as a social science student, the readings are very heavy. I think like emphasizing like the theoretical understanding is super important, especially with what I'm studying, like international relations. The way it's structured at U of T, it like emphasizes a lot of history. Actually a mix of like history, political science, and economics. I chose to focus on history, and that has resulted in like a lot of readings. So it's important to really read efficiently and to kind of just um yeah, like really like take away like the strong points from you, because in class, like when you discuss it, like you'll have like something to emphasize and something to like talk about. Um, what's been like an interesting debate? This is very specific, but I remember reading one piece about how like our conception of the Cold War is wrong. How basically the Cold War, like US foreign policy actions during the Cold War, was not just um, focused on combating the Soviet Union. It was also focused on like decolonization. It was also focused on kind of just like demographic changes in the world. And that was really eye-opening because I think it really addresses a lot of like debates we have currently about like, diversity and, the continuing process of decolonization. Um, yeah, so that's what I would say about my readings.
Um, me being in the science where there aren't many readings compared to the arts, and I'm still terrible at reading. So, um, like I need to, I was required to take some of the like courses outside of science just for like the breadth requirements, and those classes require a lot of reading, and I'm like, nope. But in terms of like workload and readings, I think it's very uh first and second year heavy. It's just like lectures upon lectures upon lectures and so many tests. But once you get into the third and fourth year, things does get a little bit more lighter in terms of just no not the prof not trying to like teach you so much information all at once. It's mostly discussion and kind of like application based. And one of the course that I really like was called Topics in Health and Disease, and we get to read a lot of kind of analyze a lot of health topic that was put online, and then we try to apply our health knowledge to see whether or not it's true or it's not true. And one topic that came up that really it's really fun and still kind of stuck with me today. It's the topic of your gut microbiome. It's pretty much like the bacteria, like the safe bacteria inside of your stomach. Can have profound impacts on your health. And I'm just was like, oh, I did not know that. It's really fun to learn and read about that on like a scientific paper.
Yeah, so I think For me, like the reading and workload definitely depends on the types of classes you're taking. Like it will vary a lot, depending on the subject and everything. I've heard a lot of people describe McGill as kind of like a sink or swim school, which basically just means like you need to be keeping up with your work like throughout the year, and it will be manageable, but if you fall behind and it'll be very hard to catch up, especially in classes that only grade on midterms and finals. Like I used to be the type of student that would like cram before tests, like just start a few days before, and like I didn't do as much throughout the semester and just expected that if I studied hard, like at the end, I would be able to do well, but that's not really the case because there is so much material. So I think like people can have definitely a very good work-life balance here, but you do need to like stay on top of everything and make sure you're just breaking things up into smaller portions and doing a little bit every day because it is definitely manageable. It's not like impossible. But yeah, like not trying to like squeeze things because it's just like a lot to do. Um, I can't really like think of a specific debate right now, but I think like I've definitely had a few in like the more flexible classes, I guess, that are like less like I guess fact-based, like maybe less like economics and like sciences, but more like the political classes I've taken and the conferences. A lot of times the TAs will like just guide a discussion, let students speak about their like differing opinions. So that always leads to like good debates, especially if you have a good TA who leads the conference.
Nice. Um, this is going to be the last question in our academic section because we'll move on to a bit more fun stuff. But how are your courses assessed? So like Wally, you mentioned like some ones are graded with like midterms and finals. Um, so are all your courses like that, or is there, I don't know, do you have coursework? Um, is that a thing? I don't know. Yeah, Maggie.
For a lot of my courses, it's very much essay and reading comprehension like based. So essays would kind of be, yeah, like either about the reading or in the case of, I don't know, history, political science, research. I think it's made me into a really strong like researcher, especially in history, being able to kind of access like archives, um, like work with different types of documents and kind of critically analyze like their sources and whatnot. With political science, it's kind of being able to research like different like policies and structures in different countries. Um, and yeah, I think as like this can be tailored. Like if you're not into just writing academic essays, you can always seek out other courses. Like for example, this semester, I took a course that required me to write a policy critique, but also like a policy brief, like an actual proposal. So it's entirely possible to just kind of tailor the type of work you have based on what you like.
For me, it's always been a lot of midterms and finals. Even in some classes though, even though they're called midterms, you have like two or three midterms, which doesn't happen in the middle of the term at all. It just happens throughout. And in some components, there are some courses that have labs built into the course. It's also worth a huge chunk of your mark being able to show up to lab, do the following the lab protocols and lab assignment and lab presentation. Your attendance in lab is really, really important to your grade. Um, and as things get in the third and fourth year, more coursework definitely, but there are also some term tests built in there, but it's definitely worth less than the project itself for me.
Yeah, so I've had a mix of both. Like I mentioned before, like I've had a class that was just a midterm and a final. I think it is pretty rare that it's like only those two things. Um, like you were just talking about labs, like I did a bio class and lab was a big part of that. Also, we had like a group project, which is a big part of that. But similar for like politics and like other kind of classes, like in arts, like the conferences, you get class participation just by showing up and speaking a little bit. So that could be like 10% of your grade. I've also had classes, I think also most classes will have like a midterm type assignment, even if it's not a sit down midterm or in a final type assessment, even if it's not like a sit down final, it might be like a paper. I've done like a podcast before with like a group. So I think it definitely depends on like how the class is structured. But most of the time there will be like something in the middle, something at the end. There are some classes that just have like things split out throughout the year, but yeah, for the most part, it's how it is.
Great, thanks, guys. I figured that was quite a lot of heavy academic stuff, and we should move on to partner stuff. So what kinds of like societies or extracurricular activities are available in your uni? Which ones have you joined? And what has been your experience with it? So this could be like anything from drama club maybe to like sports, networking societies, if you wanted. Yeah, any of those, Maggie.
We have a wide range for like we definitely have sports and arts and for like more academic focused ones. There are also ones that like differ in the type of thing they offer. Some of them offer like training for competitions. Like one of my friends does like mood, for example, or like Model UN. Otherwise, there's also like student unions, which also is very rich and which I'm like a part of for public policy. Yeah. And there's also kind of more like self-starter clubs. Like there was like a dad rock listening club at U of T. I'm part of a literature club. And with sports, there's also kind of like because we have so many students, right? So they tend to kind of be divided into like programs or like colleges of people. So I was involved in the dragon boating club, but it was run primarily by the kids in the business school. So that was an interesting experience. So overall, it's very rich, and sometimes there are duplicates for clubs, and they just differ by like the type of students that are in there. And so it's really like a customizable experience as a whole.
Yeah, mine is I mostly do the sports stuff, but I'm not in varsity, but there are other like smaller like leagues, I would say. So like the varsity are like the one that you place for your school, but then there are other like smaller fun leagues that they kind of just host it, and then we just form a team according to your college or programs of study, and you just hash out at the sport. So for me, I did volleyball, and there's a diverse types of skill, but we just had fun in that volleyball. Whether we win or lose, we just had fun, and those are really, really enjoyable. Other clubs, I didn't really join a lot of clubs, honestly, because I was also working part-time at the not at the university. During my university, I worked part-time at a restaurant, so I didn't have a lot of time to join a lot of clubs. But if let's say future students are really interested in clubs, go to club fairs. They're really, really amazing, and you get to join so many. You get to know that like there's so many clubs out there, and follow a lot of the your department's newsletter. That's when you'll get like announcement of things happening. And I didn't also was not following that, and I was doing a lot more in third and fourth year, but first and second year I was just like a hermit, pretty much.
Yeah, I'd definitely echo the thing about the club fair. I remember like in my first year, like within the first few days, they had a club fair outside, and it was like actually very overwhelming, just like the sheer amount of like stands and like clubs that were available. It was crazy. Like there's hundreds of like clubs and like student run organizations. Like it could be like about politics or like culture, like music, sports, like anything basically, activism. It's like you can definitely find like whatever you're interested in, you will find it. And also, I know it's pretty straightforward and not like super difficult to start your own club. I remember I walked out of the club fair with like signed up for like 15 different things. Obviously, I only stuck with like two of them. Things that I was part of, I joined the LSA, which is like the Lebanese Association, because I'm part Lebanese. I also did the Palestinian Human Rights Group. I was part of that. I also, it's funny you said volleyball because I also did intramural volleyball. We also have like an intramural league. They like split it up into divisions. We literally were just in the lowest division, and we lost every single game that we played, but it was super fun. And just like bonding with the team was really fun. Yeah.
I'm so glad the two of you play volleyball because I play volleyball too, and it's so fun. Yay! Yeah. But yes, thank you guys for sharing. I think like student fairs are a very overwhelming experience. But they're really great because you get loads of freebies. So future students go to the student fair and get all your free stuff. It's great. Um, I think you guys might have touched a little bit on this, but like for I guess for Toronto, your accommodation system is like through your college, right? I assume. So maybe you guys can elaborate a bit more on that. And well, obviously you'll speak on McGill and like what your accommodation is like for first year and how it changes after that and what you're doing now. Yeah, Maggie.
Okay, so yeah, at U of T, accommodation is guaranteed mostly for first year. Please use my example as a negative example because what I did was I did not follow the precious advice of adhering to deadlines because at the time I wasn't sure if I was going to U of T, and I missed the deadline for signing up for residence. So I had to live off campus in my first year. And what ended up happening was I had relatives in a different city. So what ended up happening was I had to take the regional train to school. And my commute was like 1.5 hour long. So don't do that. And it was like a character building experience, especially in the winter, I would say. Made me really appreciate like good transit infrastructure, radicalized me in that way. But I am never doing that again. Yeah, and then now I've moved off campus to somewhere much closer to school, 20-minute walk away. And yeah, most people at my year level are also doing that. And it's really fun because it paves the way to like, having your own little domestic space, throwing house parties. Yeah.
For me, I get to live on residence on my first year, and it was really, really fun. Um, the accommodation does really depend on your college in terms of like, so I live in at U of T we call them Victoria College, and I love Victoria College. Everything's great. The only thing I don't like about is the meal plan, just because you're only limited to buying stuff at your dining hall, and that's it. But in other colleges, this is where you need to really do your research because I'm a bit salty that I didn't do that. But if you're from other colleges like New College, which is another college at U of T, your meal plan can buy food from literally like from throughout campus. If they accept meal plan, if they accept like T card money, so like money on your student ID, new college student could buy it everywhere. But for me, I could only buy stuff on my dining hall, which is something I'm really like disappointed and a bit salty about. But other than that, accommodation is great. And once I got out of first year, it's mostly just looking for accommodations outside. Now, you have a lot of options as a student. You can go into like getting a condo, but for me, I live in a house, which is like a more affordable, like closer in a nicer neighborhood. You need to do a lot of like local searching, like kind of like searching through like not through like the condo, but like Kijiji, which is like a Canadian version of like secondhand where you just like do a posting on like you sell this, sell that, or like wanting a tenant. So um that's kind of the things that I kind of have to figure out accommodation wise.
Yeah, so at McGill also I get guaranteed housing for the first year. I put it in quotes because like Maggie said, if you miss the deadline, suddenly it's full and it's not guaranteed anymore and you will have to live off campus. So we have like a few different styles of residences. You can either live in like new residence hall, which is where I lived, and there's two other types like that, which is basically just it used to be a hotel building, it's now a residence hall. I think it was the best one because I had a bathroom in my own room. I had like a full-size bed. I never had to like deal with like the communal bathroom thing and like having like the tiny college beds, which was amazing. But there are also like traditional like college dorms in upper res and like RVC, so you can and yeah, you can get like a lot of different experiences in your first year. And then after that, you almost everyone just moves off campus and looks for apartments. My dorm first year was like 15-minute walk from campus. I now live in an apartment that's like 5 minutes or less, which is like really, really nice, and I'm super happy about it. Yeah, I go also the meal plan. I think it might be better than the U of T one. We just like we pay a set amount each semester and then you get unlimited swipes at any dining hall on campus, which is really nice. And like you don't have to like select like or you don't have to like pay a certain amount each time. Like you can just like go as many times as you want, which is really nice. Yeah.
Dang, guys. I think McGill won with the meal plan and the dining hall bit. That sounds great. I would be totally down to go to McGill just for the meal plan. We did have one audience question that was asking about computer science, and I know none of you do computer science. The closest thing we have to computer science is some health stuff. But if any of you guys have any information about computer science, maybe you have friends who do CS or like you've heard stuff, would you be willing to share? Or just if you've heard like stuff in general about the faculty, maybe it could be interesting for them. Yeah, Maggie, do you want to kick us off?
Oh yeah, I actually did have a friend in computer science and we talked extensively about what they wanted to do. I think as like tips for a computer science student, make sure you kind of have a rough idea of what brand of computer science you want to go into. Because from what I know, like U of T offers a lot of courses with like theoretical understanding and kind of back end like stuff. But my friend that I was talking to was actually more interested in like the UI UX side of things. But what he realized was as he kind of like fulfilled all the program requirements and entered upper year, only then was he able to really focus on what he wanted to study. And so he felt like the time, like the pacing was not great. And so I guess, yeah, like really research the courses that they offer at U of T and see if that kind of matches up to what you want to do.
For me, I my most of my first year friend group are in computer science. So, from the first year experience, from what I've had a conversation with them is the grades, the GPA, your high school GPA coming into U of T has to be exceptionally high. I'm not saying that like 100%, but just like be on the 90s or above. And they also want you to have lots of if you haven't done a lot of like the coding competition, they do want to see that you are a very involved student and not just academic itself. Um, and once you're in the computer science stream, the first year would just be kind of like quite rigorous in terms of computer science and math classes that you have to take. I guess other stuff that I want to recommend for you is that once you're into computer science, it's not just you're gonna. It's good that you're coming into computer science, but consider what how in what field you want to apply that computer science into. So you might want to do computer science into data analytics or computer science into like um, game development or computer science into like developing a software for different types of companies. So those are something that you have to think about once you're in. Yeah, that's kind of my input.
I really can't speak to it too much because I don't know a lot about it. I don't think I've met anyone who studies computer science in McGill, which is I guess kind of strange thinking about it. But what I do know is that it is in the Faculty of Sciences and it is like its own school sort of like it's called like School of Computer Sciences, which implies that it is popular and big, like well funded and a good program. Like I know for IDS, International Development Studies, which I'm in, it's within the Faculty of Arts, but it's like a school of IDS. Like it's like a very good program because it's kind of like its own thing as opposed to like smaller majors would not be called like a school, it would just be the major. So I think that does indicate it is a very strong program, and I'm sure they have a lot of resources and everything. But yeah, and I would recommend just visiting the School of Computer Services McGill online, and I'm sure they have a lot of information about it.
Thanks, guys, for answering. I know not your greatest area of expertise, but I think that was quite a fair bit of good information on the from like personal experience. It does help to have friends in multiple different streams, I think. I think we'll come to our final question, and this probably a bit reflective for you. So feel free to get as deep as you want. But what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self? Whether this is like probably your high school self, like as they applied to uni, with all the knowledge that you have now regarding university and college and stuff. Yeah, Maggie.
Mm, I would advise my younger self to kind of consider different ways of extracting knowledge. Like U of T is a very like U of T is very strong in providing like a theoretical understanding of things, especially when, in cases such as studying international relations, like you get a lot of your understanding from historical examples, historiography, political theory, that kind of thing. I would encourage her to kind of broaden, like what she draws in as knowledge and kind of use it to complement what she does in school. Because I think growing up, maybe it was the environment I grew up, maybe it was the type of schools I went to. I was always kind of just encouraged to like focus on school and just kind of get everything there. But if I, kind of looked beyond that and kind of, um, read, like, for example, case studies more, read about the work of what people were doing in the world, the news, everything, I would have so much more to complement my experience. And I might even have inspiration to like initiate projects with like the very talented professors and like students that we have at U of T. So I'd encourage her to like look beyond school to like get knowledge because school is great. But I feel like the real magic happens kind of like at the intersection of like school and real life. And that is something that like you need to seek out actively.
For me is just getting more involved in the university itself. I've realized that because I started doing that in mo pretty much just fourth year, just being more involved, and I had one of my best year in university was fourth year just because I get to do so many things. I get to talk to so many people, interact with so many professors, and just try out a lot of opportunities, whether it's just joining clubs, doing research opportunities, volunteering opportunities, or just joining a boot camp. All sorts of that are really, really good. I get to meet amazing people. I'm quite disappointed that I wasn't able to do that in first, second, or third year as well. So, because imagine if like I had so much fun, I met so many people, I get to do so much just in one year. Imagine 4 years of doing that. It would be amazing, and you get to meet a lot of people, get to pretty much like if you have many, many connections, it really does open more doors once you graduate. So I wish I had I've been doing that throughout my university, not just now.
Um, I think one piece of advice I tell myself is just like maybe don't stress so much about having everything like figured out like at the beginning. And that like it's university, like it's okay to like explore different options and like to like change your mind about things. Like I changed my mind a lot about like my minor and things like that. And just like it is very important to plan and like make sure you're like planning out and for the future, but you don't need to like have like a 4 or 5 year plan. Like it's not just about like I don't know, like filling these requirements, that's part of it, but it's also about like finding out like things that actually make you like interested and excited and like building habits that I think will help you in the long term rather than like just focusing on the short term. And I think also just not being afraid to like seek out help and resources and like academically or socially or personally, like all of those things. There are resources like for literally all three of those at McGill. Um, so I think just like knowing like even if you feel like alone at the beginning because you're coming from somewhere else, just like put yourself out there and ask for help because it will be given to you and it will like make a huge difference. And it can be hard to do that, but once you do, like it will definitely exponentially improve your experience.
Great, thanks, guys. Thank you for your reflections. I think that was really nice to hear. But yeah, unfortunately, we're at the end of our time today, but thank you so much to our panelists for spending time with us and telling us all about the differences between Toronto and McGill. Thank you as well to the viewers. I think we can all agree that our panelists have been amazing. And I hope that they have provided some crucial information that can guide your decision making on your next steps. Once again, if you need any help with university or career guidance, you can check out our website and Instagram. And you can also contact the panelists via LinkedIn if you have any further questions. Great. Thank you so much once again, and have a great rest.